Happiness was but an occasional episode in a general drama of pain. That is the last statement in a novel of roughly 82,000 words spread in 328 pages, written by one of the UK's most provocative author, Thomas Hardy, in a novel simply titled The Mayor of Casterbridge. That in itself translates the difficulties we can encounter in life when there is a mismatch of leadership and potential. Over the years, leadership has been chosen as a key element to drive societies to the right direction. My guest today on Globe Watch is just one of the best examples and persons to have to discuss such a topic. A graduate from the University of Buea in Cameroon, traveled to the United States of America plus 20 years ago, attended Southern University in Louisiana, moved to Michigan, is still in the United States, and passed some years at Harvard Business School, and currently is a professor of information system management at Palm Beach University in Florida. Dr. Madison Ngafeeson, welcome to Globe Watch.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Mr. Ebune.
You are a graduate from the University of Buea, which celebrates 30 years of existence this year. You left Cameroon, went to the United States of America, graduated from Southern University in Louisiana. You were in Texas University. You completed courses at Harvard in management and business, and you hold a PhD in business administration, and currently you are at Nottingham in
currently at Palm Beach Atlantic University in Florida.
In Florida.
Yes.
But apart from your expertise in information system and data analysis, your best known accolade in the world is coaching in terms of leadership. Tell me how you transition into that world.
So when I was moved from the, like you said, University of Buea and traveled to the United States of America and started doing my graduate studies, I was desirous of something that will be like a give back to Cameroon, a give back to Africa. And as a student back then, and seeking to really understand what is it that I had that I could give back to my own country and back to my own continent, I found leadership to be very key. It is said that when the center cannot hold, things fall apart. And I understand that leadership is
the title of Chinua Achebe's epic publication.
Exactly. You know, I discovered that leadership is the thing that holds everything together. And when leadership cannot hold it together, then things will really fall apart. Like my mentor, Mr. John Maxwell says, he says, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so I was looking for what is it that I could contribute to my country, contribute to my continent, that probably could change some tiny thing. And I found that leadership is everything. In
your childhood experiences, in your educational experiences, and in your daily life experiences, what leadership mismatch did you witness that served as a click for this transition?
You see, when I looked at some of the greatest leaders of the world, the Muhammad Gandhis, you want to look about the Nelson Mandelas, the Martin Luther King Jr. Now, these are people that were able to influence a terrific number of people. In fact, these leaders are still leading from their graves. So I asked myself, what kind of person do I need to be that even when I pass away, I can still speak from the grave and influence a whole lot of people? Because leadership, bottom line, is really about influence. So those are the kind of people that really motivate me when I think about their lives and the legacy that they've left behind. It makes me to think leadership is primary to everything.
There are so many leadership conferences which are held each year and in many countries around the world. And you are urged to contribute significantly in your post-earthly existence encouraged you to create so many leadership institutions, amongst them Lead Missions International. What do you intend to achieve specifically in that non-profit organization?
So Lead Missions International exists to espouse the principles of values-based leadership and servant leadership, which is a rare thing in leadership today. You see, if you look at all of the greatest leaders in the world, they really set out not to get a name for themselves. Today we recognize them as great people, but when they lived in their time, that was not really their focus. And so their focus was rather to empower the people that were around them, to rally them around a particular cause that they cared about, and to move them from where they were to that desired place that they could be. So, so Lead Missions exists to teach the principles of values-based leadership that is able to move our countries and our nation forward, personal lives forward, through understanding that you are the captain of your own ship, and that you, at least, you determine your own destiny, and to help people to arise instead of waiting on someone and some institution to be responsible for where their outcomes will come from. They begin to look to themselves and that internal leadership to be able to guide them there.
Each person who deals in leadership will tell you of several principles, will tell you of several practices, will tell you of several experiences to model a community. What makes your own leadership skills and coaching experiences and the lessons you teach to humanity unique? Say the one that Joyce Meyer can offer?
Well, I think that one thing that is...
And I should tell my audience that Joyce Meyer is one of the world's greatest televangelists.
Okay, yes. I think one of the things that sets what we do apart is that we really emphasize on personal leadership. You see, when we say leadership, most times people just think about somebody standing in front and a big crowd standing, in front of them or something.
Well, we
like
think
that.
of leadership when you talk of a president, a prime minister, a minister.
Exactly.
But it goes beyond that.
It goes beyond that. In fact, that is the easier part of leadership.
Okay.
Because let me say something, Mr. Ibunen. I discovered that the hardest person to lead is myself. The hardest person to lead is yourself. It's very easy to tell other people what to do. It's very easy to boss people around. That's not leadership. But to influence you to fulfill the true purpose why you were here on earth, and to be able to lead yourself to grow to your maximum capacity and to leave a legacy in the world is true leadership. And when you have that kind of leadership, you become worthy of emulation. Then people begin to follow you. Then people begin to follow the cause that you care about. And that is how people now join you, to push you into that.
You said a while ago that one of the best forms and ways to lead and to be a leader is to be a servant leader. Let me just narrow this debate through an event which occurred a few months back, which was a globally followed ceremony. You and I watched King Charles III crowned as the British monarch. In one of the segments of that Christianity-dominated ceremony at the church in the UK, the young boy said that, Your Majesty, in the name of the King of Kings, we welcome you into the Westminster Abbey. And he responded, whom I have come to serve and not to be served. In terms of leadership, what does that mean?
You see, the heart of leadership is to use our abilities, our talents, and every potential for the good of mankind. Anytime we fail to understand that every gift, every potential, every ability that we have has to be deployed to serve mankind, then we have lost the very essence of leadership. So I believe that, what was expressed in that moment was the fact that the king does not exist to be served. The king exists to serve the great people of the land of Great Britain, so of the United Kingdom. He exists to serve the Commonwealth of nations. And so he is not to seek his own personal name and aggrandizement. But the truth is that when you serve such a great number of people, then the notoriety comes, then the recognition comes. But that recognition is not first. It is first serving the people, making sure that the reason for why they are a people is met. And I think that that's what servant leadership is really all about.
Let me come back to this word service and servant. It is one of the most used words in leadership and coaching and whatsoever. When they say serve a people, in terms of leadership, what does that mean? I followed the Queen's funeral. She spent 70 years of service to the UK and the Commonwealth. For the ordinary man watching you and I, what does the word serve mean?
Great. So let me get a good example. I hope it could be a good example. So I am a father, and I have 3 children, my wife and I. So serving means that whatever I do, I am doing it for the good of my children. When I tell them, when you get up in the morning, learn how to clean the house, learn how to be a good citizen, learn how to be somebody who looks beyond yourself. I am, whatever my role is supposed to be that we're supposed to foster, it's supposed to encourage, it's supposed to nourish what it is that they have to become. So serving means that I use my influence, I use my money as a father, I use my words as a father to build that child up, to equip them, to make them feel empowered to become all that they were meant to be. By doing that, I'm serving them. I am serving him. So I'm a university professor. So one of the things I do is I serve my students. What do I serve them with? I serve them with the knowledge in business analytics that they need to succeed in the real world. They came to my class because they wanted to gain knowledge. So I make sure I serve them. In other words, if there's something that is confusing, I clarify them. If there's something that they don't understand, I bring about clarity. So we serve people by deploying our skills and abilities so that they help them accomplish whatever they want to accomplish.
Let's unpack a few issues together. When I go through Lead Missions International, you have different thematics when it comes to leadership. You have men leadership, you have leadership for women conferences, and another format. What makes the difference between men leadership, women leadership, and maybe that for society?
I am glad that you kind of brought that out. I'm glad I kind of brought that out because leadership is leadership.
Yeah.
However, the way society looks at leadership and the way culture approaches leadership is not the same. Let me say, for instance, I grew up in Cameroon for most of my years. So I knew that the man is the leader, full stop. Like, the male person in the home is the leader.
The patriarchal society.
Exactly. Yeah, so we have a patriarchal society. And when you live in a society like ours, which is patriarchal, what happens is that the women therefore believe that they are not leaders. So it's meant for the men, it's a man's job. But that is not quite true. Because if you again go to the same patriarchal society that we are, who spends more time with the children? Who shapes the lives of the children the most? Most of the time, it is women. I was raised in a single family. I grew up with my grandmother in the village. I grew up later on with my auntie, then tertiary, interestingly, with my mother. Now, these women are the people who shaped my world and shaped the paradigm of how I look at the society. And so you see that they influenced me. Who I am today is a sum total of the advice and the counsel that these women gave me. So how could we say that they were not leaders when they shaped and directed my footsteps?
So did your American way of life in terms of education and teaching, where you have spent there at least 15 years now, did that change your perspective on how we see leadership when it comes to maybe our African mindset and maybe from a Euro-American viewpoint?
Well, I would say that yes, it certainly has some elements that I never saw in our own culture. You know, again, our culture is very patriarchal, and then you enter in a culture that is growing towards feminism, by the way. So, you know, but and by the way, whether patriarchal or non-patriarchal
now you are found in the complete sea of democracy, freedom, and liberties.
So, you know, and the funny thing is that each one of these types of paradigms have their own pluses and their own negatives, you know, because in a patriarchal society, again, people tend to feel like everything rests on the man, but that's not true. Now, in other societies, you know, it feels like everybody is everybody, but somebody has to take the lead. There is always somebody that has to say the final word.
Okay.
And that person is the leader.
Apart from coaching, teaching leadership, what other activities are you involved?
My notion of the world was shaped a lot when I was a student. And somehow I've stayed a student at heart. Maybe that's why I even went back to become a professor. So I've just become a lifelong student in my life. And so I love...
University life is continuous research, and research entails you are a student for eternity.
Exactly. You are researching, and then you are teaching, and you are sharing the information, disseminating the information that you are sharing. So I spend most of my time, again, with young people all the time. That's something that I do.
Now, let's come to your engagements with Cameroon and Africa, which you said at the beginning. Ever since you have been coaching, how do you assess the impact you have had in your various conferences you organize around the world? Currently, you are in Cameroon for one of them.
So I think that, okay, so by the way, Lead Missions International has been offering leadership development around the world now for 7 years. So this is our 7 years of existence. In the last 7 years, we have trained leaders in 55 countries of the world. We have trained over 10,000 leaders around the world. And so when I look back, you know, to what we have done, I see in that, you know, that what is needed is for people to continually understand this is especially important aspect of what I call self-leadership. Because everything to me starts with this notion of you leading you to accomplish your dreams and the things that you care about. If you can lead you well, then you can lead others even easily.
In a moment, the interview will come to an end. Now, let's principally talk about your teaching experiences. You are greatly involved in business administration, which somehow it's equally linked to leadership. Last week, my guest on the program was the former president of Ecuador, Rosalia Arteaga. And in one of the statements she discussed with me is that our next world will be greatly determined by technology. And she picked artificial intelligence as the main determinant. You would teach leadership and coach people live. How do you moderate the views of the next generation when it comes to artificial intelligence?
So first of all, I'm actually a professor of business analytics, which is, you know, and analytics is partly with AI or artificial intelligence, which is one of the transforming trends of the century. In fact,
the fourth industrial revolution.
Exactly. In fact, you know, Harvard Business Review said that the data scientist is the sexiest job of the 21st century. And this is Harvard Review. They use that very trendy term to describe what it is. But truthfully, artificial intelligence, it's a big trend to watch out for. Now, and there's been a big question whether you know, computers and artificial intelligence will replace people. And I always answer that question by saying that
all of those things are your domains of expertise.
yes, they are all my domains of expertise. And so people have always been asking, how do we handle artificial intelligence coming into the workplace, coming into the society, and how do we deal with that? Well, it will take, again, leadership so that we can leverage the power of artificial intelligence to solve problems. Because what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is the ability for a computer to learn the knowledge that is already available, learn the knowledge that has been supplied to it over years and years and years, being able to analyze all of the knowledge and come out with insights that can answer some questions that can drive businesses and society.
Before our last question, most of your leadership courses and conferences, they have a key element, religious leadership. Our world counts roughly 34,000 denominations. That is just for the Christian community. Alone in the whole of the United States where you live, there are about 38,000 churches. Why do you lay a lot of emphasis on spiritual leadership?
So, think about it.
Homo spiritus.
So, think about this. The world is about 7-point-something billion people.
8 billion according to the UN now.
Exactly. And so we have over 1 billion people that identify themselves as Christians, for instance.
2.2 billion.
Okay, good. 2.2 or now. Okay,
Yeah,
so
no.
think about it. So that is 2/8 of the world. That is 1/4 of the entire world. Now, and all of these people go to a certain place every Sunday or every Saturday to worship, no matter whatever the worship thing is.
A synagogue, a mosque, a church,
yeah.
a basilica.
You know, so I'm just limiting even to Christian because we want to talk about just religion, it will be the whole world.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of narrow it down just to Christianity. And I'm trying to argue the case for why we reach out to this group of people.
Okay.
Because if you reach out to the leaders that are over these 2.4 billion people, they have people that they disseminate. They speak to every week. So the best way to reach the ordinary person is therefore to commit this to faithful people who are passionate about impacting their communities so that they can pass it down easily. You know, I may not be able to speak to 2.4 billion people, but there are leaders that are over these people that speak to hundreds and
Bishops,
even thousands,
pastors, priests, evangelists.
Yes. And not only they speak to them, but these are the people that they listen to. These are the people that they trust. You know, when you go to your pastor, your priest, your father, your man of God, you look up to them for leadership. So that's why we invest a lot in the people that people already have trust in so that they can pass it down.
Finally, what is your message to the leaders of the world? If you were to advise them, we are talking about leadership, they govern millions of people and billions of people. If you had one specific advice on leadership to deliver to the world community, what would that be?
I would say, let us be reminded that everything rises and falls on leadership. The future of the world depends on how well we lead it. We can lead it to destruction, or we can build an entire world, an entire continent, an entire world. So when we understand that our actions will either destroy our nations or build them, then we are careful about what we say. We are careful about what we do. We are certainly careful about every policy that we develop because it affects the lives of billions of people.
And with that notion of caution, we conclude the interview. Dr. Madison Ngafeeson, Thank you very much indeed for being guest on our program, and we wish you a safe return to the United States of America.
It was my pleasure to be with you, and thank you so very much for having me.
You are welcome, sir.
Thank you.